If every tile contractor did these 6 things, they would be off to such a better start when they're starting their business. These 6 essential things. Hello, my tile friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Tile Money Podcast. My name is Luke Miller, your host, and today I've got a special episode for you. We're recording this live. It is International Podcast Day, September 30th, and it has been 1 year and 2 weeks since I launched the Tile Money Podcast. So I was watching my podcast friends do all this cool stuff, and they were saying, well, what are you going to do for International Podcast Day? And I was like, I don't know. And so I decided, you know what, I have to record a podcast. I was actually already scheduled and am scheduled a little bit later tonight. I'll be joining Fred Houston on his podcast for his live recording. And I just thought, you know what, let me jam out a live podcast episode and see if we can talk about one of the things that the group mentioned they wanted me to talk about, which is preparing for success. So somebody was saying, what do you do? What should you do when you're just starting out? What are the essential things you need to prepare for? So that's the topic I have for you today. I've worked up, and please do comment along. I see a lot of you already joining us, about 18 of us. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Facebook friends, tile friends on YouTube as well as Facebook. It's good to be here with you. Feel free to ask me any questions you want, and towards the end, I'll address them and add to the discussion with your comments. So before we get started here, I just want to take a quick minute and thank our sponsors. I want to thank our latest sponsor, GoBoard, John's Mansville company. GoBoard has a great, innovative new board, waterproof, lightweight foam board for your showers. Laticrete International, I want to thank Laticrete. Laticrete has great family values. They invented thinset. What more do you need to say, right, about a company? US-based, privately held, amazing company values there. And the NTCA is our nation's resource, the largest resource for tile contractors. They've been at it a long time. You join the National Tile Contractors Association, and you get to know people who have been doing this a long, long time, and you get to talk to them, shake their hands at these events, and really fortify your business by becoming an NTCA member. HappyTileGuy.com. Happy Tile Guy is where myself and my partner Grant, we make tile websites designed for tile contractors by a tile contractor. Yours truly. How funny is that? All right, so if you're in the need for a website, head over to happytileguy.com. All right, so let's get today's subject started. And so today we are going to be talking about preparing your business for success. And Facebook user says, act like the business you want to have. Good advice from a podcast. That's it. We want to act like the businesses that we really want to have. And so when we're talking about starting a new tile contractor business, now that I've been at this for a while and interviewed close to 100 people, I've been starting to assimilate. Now, what is it that makes some businesses really, really pop and really established for generations? So I've kind of put together a short list here to talk about today. Let me just see. And that's our topic for today is preparing for success. So we're going to talk about the 6 essential things that you should be doing to fortify your business. And the first thing that you really should do, and this is a quote, and it was actually an episode last year with Justin, and he said that he always viewed his business as his boss. So I think that's the first thing we need to really do is view this business, whether we call it Miller Tile and Stone, Tile by Design, whatever name we're going to choose, we have to view that business as a separate entity from ourselves from the beginning, because we're viewing it in a much larger way. And if we're viewing it as the boss, hey, the boss says we need to do this, the boss says we need to do that, the boss says we need to be marketing, the boss says, I need to get paid this much, and everything else needs to get paid as well, right? So you have somebody to answer for when you view your business as your boss. And that is the number one mindset that I want you to focus on when you're starting your business, when you're preparing to go out on your own. Really understand that this thing, it's not an extension of you. I know it's your business. I know it might even be your name. Like I chose my name here, Miller Tile and Stone, but it's really a separate entity, and it really dictates your actions. And you're working for that company. You're working for your company. So it's nice to be able to set your hours and what have you. But really, if you stop working, that company goes under. So the first rule I wrote here after that, that's kind of the mindset, right? The mindset shift that we all need to make is not only the separation, but also know where you're going. Like a comment said, act like the business that you want to turn into. So you can look to different businesses, even in different industries, and say, man, I really like the way they have that set up. So when you start out on your own, I want you to envision how your business is going to look down the road. You don't have to put a time frame on it. Just know that in the future, that's the way your business is going to look, act, and run. And so the first rule when it comes to kind of thinking about your business and establishing yourself for success, right, is you've got to know your numbers. And this is something my wife drilled into my head many times when I was getting started. And she said, well, how do you know how much to charge? And I'd be like, well, I heard it over here or heard it over there in a Facebook group, right? And I just have this feeling my boss kind of charged this much or whatever. And she said, well, you've got to know how much it's costing you, Luke, to know how much to charge. And oh boy, was she right. So know thy numbers. Really take your time to understand how much you need to be charging. And it doesn't matter, like I always say, it doesn't matter what business you're going to start. You have to understand how much the product is costing you, and only then can you mark it up an appropriate rate so that you're getting paid for your time, and the business is getting paid as well. Remember, the business is your boss, so the business needs money as well. And so when you think about it, you want to start, and work your way backwards. Okay, there's a couple hundred days a year that I can work realistically, maybe 200 if you're working. That would be working every day with 2 weeks off, no weekends. Or maybe you take 3 weeks off and you work a couple Saturdays, 5 Saturdays. So realistically, you're going to work about 200 days a year. How much money do you need in that year? Well, for your family, start there. Well, start there and say, okay, this is the bottom line. This is my salary. This is what my boss is going to pay me as the salary to be the business owner, to take the lead here. And so then you say, well, how much does the business need per year? And so you figure that out. Oh, I've got this truck payment. I've got the cell phone payment, all your overhead, right? Figure out all your overhead and say, okay, so then now you're combining those. All right, so now you got these numbers, but remember, we didn't allow for anything. We didn't allow for anything. So you might come up with this number. Okay, it's 100 grand times, or divided by 200. I've got to be charging $500 a day. Well, guess what? We didn't allow for anything. So basically, what you have to do is just to do the rough numbers right here on the spot. You would just double that and say, all right, I've got to charge. If I need 100 grand between the business and myself, I've got to charge at least 200 grand, and that's that's very rough, rudimentary, but that at least gets you started out the door. That way, well, it's $1,000 a day. It's $1,000 a day. So that's rudimentary numbers there. I probably should have spent some more time, friends, doing that. But off the top of my head, yeah, this is on YouTube, friend, and it is going live right now. So every time I go live, we go live on YouTube as well as Facebook. And then the YouTube channel is just Tile Money. So you can just search Tile Money and check it out. And I'm not sure if that's Andy Murphy. Good to see you guys in here. So does that make sense so far? I mean, you've got to start with those basics. You don't rely on other people's numbers. You don't rely on, what you think you should be charging or what you think you can win the job at. None of that stuff matters at the end of the day. If you can't get paid and if your business can't get paid, none of it matters. It all goes away. So you've got to, do more math than that. Sit down and really figure out what this is costing you to produce tile for your clients. So the second thing I would say to work on from the beginning, and again, this is a mindset thing, and it's the way you position yourself locally, is you've got to be the local tile expert. Be the local tile expert. And what I mean by this is you want to be everywhere and anywhere people are searching for tile, and you want your branding to be very clear, your branding. You want to be writing content, making content, whether that's YouTube or writing blog posts, Google My Business posts. I went in next Tuesday, a week from yesterday. There's a great episode coming up where I go into this in a lot more detail, but that is what I mean by that. Everywhere people are searching how how to install tile, what tile to choose, be that expert. You be letting the architects know that you're the local tile expert. Excuse me. Be taking part in learning opportunities, and be letting everybody know, hey, look, I just went to this learning opportunity. Use that as your marketing, and really be creating content, pushing content, establishing yourself as this guy is passionate about tile. Look at his work, look at his personality. He is the local expert, and be known as that local expert. And that is the mindset from the very beginning that you want to have is, I am going to be the local expert. I'm going to be a marketing company first that happens to install tile. And if you go into it with that mindset, you're going to be so far ahead of the game, knowing your numbers right off the bat, and then being the local expert and letting everybody know, and also sincerely taking part in the education resources that we have, because only then will you truly be the local expert. And I understand we're all at different levels, and we're all working towards that perfection, which we will never achieve as tile setters or humans. Am I right? So we had a couple comments on the money thing, so let's just take a quick look at those. Yeah, so that's people just saying, cost of goods plus cost of goods sold equals material plus overhead. Yep, exactly. Yeah, happytileguy.com for websites. We are. My partner is an expert in SEO, and that is one of the reasons we partnered together, for sure. All right, so be the local expert, and let everybody know, hey, look, this is my passion, this is my life, these are the reasons. I'm answering the questions that you have about tile, no matter if that's on social media like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, wherever you choose to be, make sure you're dominating that space, make sure you're all in, and that you're answering those questions. And then utilize Google My Business. And again, next week, I'm actually going to roll out with not one, not two, but 3 videos on how to set up Google My Business, help you set it up, help you fill out everything that you need to be filling out. And we're going to go into more detail on how to do this. But that's next week. All right, tip number 3 is always over deliver. And so this goes right along with under promise and over deliver, right? So you don't want to get, put your foot in your mouth, so to speak. If somebody's asked you something and you don't know the answer, say, well, we'll do our best, especially if it's, unless you're selling that service or whatever. But sometimes, when you're opening up, they're like, oh, we'd really like to, center this niche. And you might know that that's entirely possible. And you say, yeah, we'll do our best, and then boom, you do it. You say, great news, we centered the niche. And that is how you over deliver. You give them more than they wanted. You give them more than they even asked for. Maybe that was a poor example off the top of my head. But when they come home and you have a little tiny thing, I'll never forget. I was working on this job in Pebble Beach one time. I was the tile guy. It was my buddy's job, and I was helping him knock it out. It was one of those jobs you just really ready to get out of there really quick, right? And so we were knocking out this job. It was handmade tile and an epoxy Laticrete Spectralock, and it was Spectralock and Pro or Premium or whatever they call it, and half-inch grout joints. I mean, really thick half handmade tile grout joints. It was just an incredible job. So I was helping him grout this thing. We went through so many units, but that is what we were installing, and the general contractor, who's kind of a really funny guy. I mean, just a strange cat, just like one out of the books. You're like, man, where did they find this guy? He comes in there one day, and he's just like a whirlwind of of excitement, and it was just incredible to watch him. And there was this big mess. He was doing something with the plumbing or something, and there was this big mess, and he he went he made he went and got his shop vac and sucked up the mess, and me and my buddy Jonah were sitting there grouting, and it's like no big deal. Well, he pulls the client in. He says, come in here, look at this big mess, and he made this big deal about it. And I realized years later, well, what he was doing, he was just over delivering. He was just it wasn't like anything that extraordinary, but he went out of his way to clean up the mess, and then he showed the client how big the mess was. And this is kind of a tangent I didn't mean to go off of here, and it doesn't really fit what I'm trying to say, but it's an interesting story nonetheless. It's an interesting story because you can see how people kind of almost overcompensate sometimes, and they say, well, look at this huge mess I just cleaned up for you. And the client was so excited. He was like, thank you. It was a great client to have. The job, was good, I'm sure, for that contractor and everything like that. But these are the types of things when I talk about over delivering. Always leave the house cleaner than you found it. Always leave that impression on the client's mind, and that is going to be one of the keys to your success. This is one of the things that I noticed a lot of these successful tile contractors are doing out there. And then number 4, again, I'm going to bring you back to know thy numbers. I want you to know your numbers, and not just, I just want to emphasize that, because when you're starting to really pick up speed, this is where a lot of people actually kind of have an issue. You ever heard of the contractors talking like, oh yeah, we're just slam. Oh man, we got a lull. There's a lull here. No work coming in, no number, no phone calls, no nothing. Well, this is part of the problem. Is you get so busy, you start to forget to implement the basics, right? And so when I say this the second time, know your numbers, I'm talking about tracking everything at all times. Make sure you're tracking everything and do job costing. Rob Bauer and myself had a great episode on job costing and the importance of this. This is a continued exercise that you have to do. Your business is telling you, as the business owner, somebody's got to be job costing and tracking all these numbers. Because I mean, look at what if you were, we're not like lumber builders or carpenters, but what if you weren't really paying attention to the 2x4 prices that have skyrocketed, and you're bidding work off of prices from June, you're going to be messed up. It's going to really screw your business up. So track everything. Make sure you understand that when that thin set and that grout price goes up by 50 cents or $1, you've got to start charging $1 or $2. You've got to raise your prices. So that's the importance of knowing your numbers. And a lot of you are agreeing. Steve, good to see you, brother. Appreciate you being in here. He says it's fun. So if you don't enjoy running your numbers, go ahead and reach out to Steve. Give him some fun to do on his downtime. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for popping in here. And if you got to run, no worries. This will come out here in a few weeks. So it'll come out as a regular podcast episode. And if you guys aren't subscribed to the podcast, just get in your phone under applications and find a podcast app. We're pretty much on a dozen or a couple dozen of them. And find one you like and just search Tile Money, and then subscribe and turn on your notifications. Or YouTube works as well. All right, let's get into number 5. Number 5, I just simply wrote down, get after it. All right, so this is the time, when things start picking up. Maybe you're having a good summer, you're having a good good run at things. Things pick up really quick. Anthony, thanks. I'm glad you're enjoying this information. Thanks for being here. I'm glad it's helpful. So number 5 is get after it. When things are really picking up, really heating up, that is not the time to step off the gas. That is the time to push that gas pedal down and just get after it. You've got to continue doing the things that are working and have gotten you increased your business and increase your profitability. The worst thing we can do is the same thing over and over again if it's not working. If something is just, if you're beating your head against the wall, you've got to stop that. That's the definition of insanity. And you've got to change things up. But if something's working, on the other hand, if you're doing marketing that's working, oh man, this marketing is really working. Do not slow down doing that. Continue, and you can, if you really want to get after it, like I'm saying, you can hire a Facebook or Google ad specialist. You can run 2 ads side by side, see which one is working better. Then you double down. Then you keep doing that. You keep getting after it. That's what I mean. You want some encouragement on this? Listen to Grant Cardone, 10X. Every time I feel like slowing down, I listen to 10X Mindset by Grant Cardone, and it's a great listen or read. It's a short book, and he reads it himself if you want to listen to it on Audible, and it's pretty exciting, pretty gets you pumped up and ready to go to work, for sure, because his whole model is just work harder than the next guy. And I do believe that there is a balance, especially when you have a family and things of this nature. And I take what I can. I take the good from that book, and I don't necessarily apply every single lesson, because you drive yourself crazy working like some of these guys like Grant Cardone. But maybe that is you, and maybe that's what you want to do, and then it's time to get after it. But nonetheless, do not slow down. Continue your progress. Continue doing and expanding on the things that are working, and just get after it. And then my number 6 thing is kind of balances that thought. My number 6 thing that tile guys I see making this mistake time after time when you're starting a business. All of us do it. I do it. Right now it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you're creative and you're I mean for one, you're putting out a product that is uniquely yours. And that's true with tile. It's true with this podcast. And you just don't want to give up that control. I mean, it can keep you up at night. It can really cause a lot of anxiety. And to do this, the 6th thing here is to delegate. The 6th thing we need to do as business owners is to delegate. So you have to maximize your time. You have to maximize what you're really, really good at. If you're really, really good at installing the tile, then so be it. Maybe you need to build your business around that. But if you would rather build a business that has employees and that allows you to maybe you really enjoy selling, being with that client. Maybe you really enjoy building the business, seeing the vision, seeing your business grow. Maybe that's what you're really after as being a business owner. Well, you have to learn to delegate from day one. See, if I try to do my taxes, that might take me a whole week of time. How much tile could you set, in a week? How many podcasts could I create in a week? And so from the beginning, make sure you're delegating, even if that means, okay, this is a once a year job for him. It's a once a month job for this person, like a bookkeeper. And then when it comes to other things too, as you expand your business, you have to delegate. You have to release some of that control and say, I'm going to, I really want a few installers. I really would like, some helpers. I would really like somebody to handle this aspect of my business that I'm just not, it's not the best use of my time. I'm not efficient at it, right? And it's not my profession. I didn't go into business to do this. So do not be afraid of delegation. Make sure you're delegating the things that are kind of time sucks and the things that you are not efficient at. So, all right. Well, those were the 6 points I had. Know your numbers, be the local expert, over deliver and under promise. Know your numbers by tracking everything, get after it, and maximize your time by delegating. And I did want to give a shout out. I meant to do this in the beginning. I did want to give a shout out to a few other podcasts. If you enjoy this podcast, and please, by the way, if you have questions, put them up in the comments. It's good to see everybody here. I did want to give a shout out to a few other podcasts. The Stone and Tile Show with Dr. Fred Houston. He's been a guest on my podcast. He's got a great knowledge, a great background in stone forensics, as well as tile installation, as well as countertops. So he's really been around the industry for quite a number of years and has a wealth of knowledge. He has great guests on his show, and he records that live every Wednesday, I do believe. And then we've got the Floor Masters podcast with Anthony Moses. Anthony is a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast. If you enjoy podcasts, check out all these podcasts. Give them a listen. Give them a subscribe. It is Podcast International Day after all. And then we got the Floor Academy with Kyle Hayden. And Kyle's a great guy, great flooring installer from the looks of things, and tile as well. He does. Both these guys do, Anthony and Kyle do tile and flooring. And then we've got the Contractors podcast, and that's got about 12 episodes already out. That's a fairly newer podcast, but it looks like it's picking up speed. It's on Buzzsprout. You can check it out. The Contractors podcast, it's called. And I'm sure that one will probably be coming to a podcast app that you listen to. I assume, yeah, you're welcome. Somebody said thanks for the shout out. I can't see your name, but you're welcome. It must be Fred or Anthony or Kyle. But yeah, so that's what I was on my mind today. You know, I was just kind of reminiscing about the podcast itself and the reasons I started it. We just passed 2 years, September 20th, so 10 days ago. We passed 2 years of this podcast being published. We have about 115 episodes. I keep saying that. I should count them. But it is over 115 now. And it's been an incredible journey. It's been a lot of fun just doing this, and it's been a huge privilege for me to continue to do this and continue to help contractors. It's been very satisfying getting to know you and assisting so many of you with your businesses. It's really, encouraging me to continue to go forward with this podcast. Like I'm saying, the same advice I just gave you here today with this podcast, because it is a brand new, relatively brand new business venture, I should say, for me. And so with that in mind, it's just, like I say, it's time to step on the gas. It's time to continue education and take further steps to further that education. And we are going to be doing 12 business workshops, physical business workshops next year in 2021 throughout the United States. We've got some cities picked out. The first one is going to be the first or second week, the 7th and 8th of February 2021. That's going to be in Orlando. So you might want to I'll be releasing more information. I'm booking guest speakers right now. We're going to have professional guest speakers. That's going to be a 2-day business workshop, kind of to celebrate, to kick things off, together with our sponsors, Laticrete, the NTCA, Go Board, and we're developing partnerships with other potential sponsors right now. So really look forward to that. It's going to be a really fun event. And what I mean by that is it's going to be, we're going to be taking in professional knowledge, business advice during the day, and then we'll go out to dinner the first night. And then the second night, we're going to have our first Tile Money Awards show. And so we're creating a few awards to give out during that show to focus and highlight some really successful tile contractors here in the Tile Money Friends Facebook group. And got another great comment here. Appreciate your support. Appreciate that. All right, so that's it for me. I'm going to go grab a little dinner, and then I'm going to be on Fred's podcast tonight at 6. So that's in less than 1 hour. We are going to be discussing YouTube. There's a lot of great YouTube channels. And the question came up recently in the Facebook groups, one of them, should we really be teaching, tile on YouTube? And so that's the discussion of tonight's episode with Fred. So I've got some thoughts on this I'm going to share with Fred, and I'm eager to see what Fred says about that. And if you check out his Facebook page, Fred Houston, Tile and Stone Show, you can see a link to actually join in, and he has a call-in number where you can call in and say hi as well. So will do, brother. Thank you for your support. All right, tile friends, until next week, That's it for me. Stay profitable.